From the NASDAQ market site in Times Square, I'm Brad Smith, and you're watching Behind the Bell. Happy Friday, Facebook fam. You've made it successfully through the week, so congratulations to you. Even more importantly, happy Veterans Day, and a sincere thank you to our U.S. servicemen and women who protect our nation day in and day out. To officially end the trading day, participants from the Veterans Support Symposium and the Thayer Leader Development Group at West Point will be ringing the NASDAQ closing bell within the hour. Prior to then, we're joined by Managing General Partner of the Thayer Hotel and CEO of the Thayer Leader Development Group, Rick Manicosi. Great to have you here, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Brad.
Absolutely.
First off, I'd like to thank the NASDAQ for having us here. We were here last year. It was a great event, and we're really, really pleased to be here again today. And I would also like to extend a very happy Veterans Day to the 22 million veterans of our country who have selflessly served our country and have made sacrifices along with their families. So thank you very much for their service.
Absolutely. Now, you're no stranger here to NASDAQ, as you just mentioned. Are you looking forward to the closing bell?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The closing bell's great.
Yeah.
The energy in this room is phenomenal. And, you know, everybody really had a great day today. And I know everybody's really looking to culminate the day with the closing bell.
Certainly. Now, tell us a little bit about the event that's been taking place here all day today, the symposium.
Sure. So we started off with the opening bell this morning, and we had the West Point, we had the Glee Club down here from West Point to represent West Point as part of that. And throughout the day, we've had a series of panels ranging from the Undersecretary of the Army to the Undersecretary of the VA. We had a panel of CEOs who are all West Point graduates take questions from the audience in regard to their views of leadership and also their views of how corporate America should embrace veterans who are transitioning from their military careers into their civilian careers. And through that panel and that process, these CEOs kind of laid out what their companies are doing in regard to how they're making that transition happen and how they're reaching out to the veteran community. We also had one of our wonderful keynote speakers from Thayer Leader Development Group, General Becky Halstead, give an incredibly inspiring keynote speech, really reaching out to the audience, letting them know that, you know, we as leaders in organizations are directly responsible for the messages that we send to our organization, and that everybody's listening.
Certainly.
And we have to be absolutely clear in regard to what we communicate, that it's really what we want from our organizations. So that was absolutely phenomenal as well. And then we also had the commander of the International Space Station, retired Colonel Tim Copra. We started that off with a video from space. About 3 months ago, Colonel Copra did a live interview from space at the headquarters of GE in Crotonville. And that was sponsored by Thayer Leader Development Group. We had about 200 human resource professionals there, actually hearing Colonel Copra's vision of leadership and also how corporate America should embrace these veterans and integrate them into their organization, and demonstrating the value that these veterans could bring. So that was absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. And so when you talk about some of the events that have been taking place here today and some of the great organizations represented as well, I mean, we had Citi here, we had Virtue here, so some certainly well-known brands. What are some of the most interesting stories that you say you've heard about how these big brands are adopting and implementing hiring initiatives for veterans? That's
a great question. And so our tagline is hashtag Vets Day CEO Challenge. And we at Thayer Leader Development Group have posted on our website our veterans initiatives, and there's 13 points. It's basically how do you attract and market to veterans, how do you train veterans, how do you hire them and retain them long term, how do we recognize the value of those serving in the Reserve and the National Guard and appreciate what they're doing and support them as an organization, how do we support service-disabled veteran-owned organizations as well as veteran-owned organizations, how do we honor all veterans, how can we offer discounts to the veteran population if you're a retailer, and how can organizations like ours at Thayer Leader Development Group go out and hire military spouses who are serving at bases throughout the world to help employ them to, to help their families. And so those are some of the 13 initiatives that we at Thayer Leader Development Group have adopted. And we put that challenge out to all the CEOs across the spectrum and ask them to do an internal evaluation of how they're doing in regard to those initiatives. And amazingly enough, they took it so seriously and have looked at it, and we have challenged them to adopt these initiatives. And one of them also is philanthropy.
Certainly.
And so the pin that I wear on my lapel is the Johnny Mack Soldiers Foundation, which I'm fortunate enough to be a board member of.
Wow.
You know, there are so many philanthropic organizations and charities that are trying to support the veterans, and we're asking corporate America to participate in that. If you look at the overall contribution of philanthropy in conjunction with what the VA offers as a government entity, it's really just a splash in the pail. And there's an incredible amount of growth that's available. And so we at Thayer Leader Development Group are leading the challenge to try to get these organizations to be more philanthropic and adopt an organization, such as Johnny Mack Soldiers Fund, which was founded probably about 3 years ago.
Wow.
In the name of one of my West Point classmates, John McHugh, who was killed in Afghanistan. And what we do is we basically raise money so that way we can help educate the children of those who have fallen and made the ultimate sacrifice. And so we're incredibly proud of the work that we're doing, and we're asking others to do that. And it's just amazing, like companies like Citigroup and Office Depot and 7-Eleven and Mercedes-Benz are giving unbelievable contributions to veteran causes.
Wow.
In fact, one of the highlights today was Mercedes-Benz. One of the founders of the Johnny Mack Soldiers Fund is a classmate of mine, former CEO of Mercedes-Benz, Steve Cannon. And he's since moved on, but the Mercedes-Benz as an organization has adapted, making a $500 contribution to our organization for every vehicle sold.
Wow.
So it's organizations like that that are just really making a difference, and we should just be incredibly proud of the types of people that we have in these leadership positions.
Yeah. Definitely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And actually, I want to pause for a second to let the Facebook audience know you can absolutely check out the replay of some of these very discussions that Rick has mentioned from the symposium to make sure that you're seeing the great work that companies like Mercedes are putting forth and making sure that we're putting together sustainable hiring initiatives for our veterans as well, and hiring our heroes. So, you know, just before we wrap, I do want to ask you, how you and your team were able to really turn around the historic Thayer Hotel as well. What was that process like?
Well, thank you for that question. I had the privilege of being part of a team over the past 6 years that has really worked tirelessly to try and renovate and bring back to life the historic Thayer Hotel. It's an icon at West Point and has a very storied past. And when we got involved, it was in a very difficult situation financially, physically. And so over the course of the past 6 years, we surrounded ourselves with a team of executives who actually were unbelievably passionate about making that happen. And so it's all about people, which is what the symposium was about today. It's all about people and surrounding yourself with the right people who care. And, you know, those people really need to have certain characteristics, and we try to, within our organization, those tend to be focused on integrity, character, accountability, responsibility, and a desire for excellence. And so through those values at the historic Thayer Hotel at West Point, our executive team has really displayed that on a daily basis. Has really made a difference. Absolutely.
Rick, great to have you here ahead of the NASDAQ closing bell. You've got an important job, so we don't want to hold you for too long this afternoon, but thank you for being here on Behind the Bell.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And thank you all for viewing live on Facebook. Stay tuned for the NASDAQ closing bell coming up next here live on Facebook.